Shophetim, Judges chapter 8. And the men of Ephraim said to him, What is this you have done to us by not calling us when you went to fight with Midian? And they contended with him sharply. And he said to them, What have I done as compared with you? Are the gleanings of Ephraim not better than the grape harvest of Abiezer? Elohim has given into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeeb, and what was I able to do as compared with you? And when he had said that, the rage toward him subsided. And Gidon and the 300 men who were with him came to the Jordan, passing over, weary, yet pursuing. And he said to the men of Sukkot, Please give loaves of bread to the people who follow me, for they are weary, and I am pursuing Zebah and Salmona, sovereigns of Midian. But the leaders of Sukkot said, Are the hands of Zebah and Salmuna now in your hand, that we should give bread to your army? And Gideon said, Because of this, when Yah has given Zebah and Salmuna into my hand, I shall tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. And he went up from there to Penuel, and spoke to them in the same way. And the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Sukkot had answered him. So he spoke also to the men of Penuel, saying, When I come back in peace, I shall break down this tower. And Zebah and Salmona were at Karkor, and their armies with them, about 15,000 men, all who were left of the army of the people of the east. Now those who had already fallen were 120,000 men who drew the sword. And Gideon went up by the way of those who dwell in tents on the east of Nobah and Yogbeha. And he struck the camp while the camp was at ease. And Zebah and Salmona fled, and he pursued them, and captured the two sovereigns of Midian, Zebah and Salmona, and shuttered the entire army. And Gidon, son of Joash, returned from battle from the ascent of Heres, and captured a youth of the men of Sukkot, and questioned him. So the youth wrote down for him the leaders of Sukkot and its elders, 77 men. And he came to the men of Sukkot and said, See, Zebah and Salmuna, about whom you taunted me, saying, Are the hands of Zebah and Salmuna now in your hand, that we should give bread to your men who are weary? And he took the elders of the city, and thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them he taught the men of Sukkot a lesson. And he broke down the tower of Penuel, and killed the men of the city. And he said to Zebah and Salmuna, How were the men whom you killed at Tabor? So they answered, They were like you, each one looking like the son of a sovereign. And he said, They were my brothers, the sons of my mother. As Yah lives, if you had let them live, I would not kill you. And he said to Jether, his firstborn, Rise, kill them. But the youth would not draw his sword, for he was afraid, because he was still a youth. And then Zebah and Salmuna said, Rise yourself and fall on us, for as a man is, so is his might. So Gideon arose and killed Zebah and Salmuna, and took the crescent ornaments which were on their camels' necks. So the men of Israel said to Gideon, Rule over us, both you and your son, also your son's son, for you have saved us from the hand of Midian. But Gideon said to them, I do not rule over you, nor does my son rule over you. Yah does rule over you. And Gideon said to them, I have a request to make of you, that each of you give me the ring from his spoil. For they had rings of gold, because they were Ishmaelites. And they said, We shall certainly give them. And they spread out a garment, and each man threw into it the ring from his spoil. And the weight of the gold rings that he requested was 1,700 pieces of gold, besides the crescent ornaments, and the pendants, and purple robes which were on the sovereigns of Midian, and besides the chains that were around their camels' necks. And Gideon made it into a shoulder garment, and set it up in his city, Ophrah. And all Israel went whoring after it there, and it became a snare to get on into his house. Thus Midian was humbled before the children of Israel, and they lifted their heads no more, and the land had rest for 40 years in the days of Gideon. And Jerubbaal, son of Joash, went and dwelt in his own house. And Gideon had 70 sons who were his own offspring, for he had many wives. And his concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, and he gave him the name Abimelech. So Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age, and was buried in the burial site of Joash his father, in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. And it came to be, when Gideon was dead, that the children of Israel again went whoring after the Baals, and met Baal Berith, their mighty one. Thus the children of Israel did not remember Yah their Elohim, who had delivered them from the hands of all their enemies round about. Nor did they show loving commitment to the house of Jerubbaal, Gideon, according to all the good which he did for Israel.